What's up, y'all? And of course, welcome to another Alternative Factuals video. So, last week I was on vacation, had to, vibe out while the weather was still decent. And then yesterday, obviously, was Memorial Day. So, you already know what day I'm recording this. It's a Tuesday, so I kind of gave myself away. But we're back to the, weekly scheduled videos. And before I dive into anything, I'm not going to say to like, share, and of course subscribe, but I do have a new single out. It's been out already for about a week and a half-ish. So I would like for you guys to check it out. I'll put some of the links in the description so you can check it out. It's a really dope electronic pop song. Just, my personal stuff. Just, I feel like, if you want to get more involved in my stuff outside of the channel, be sure to do that. But I'm going to split this video into two parts. What's going to happen is I'm going to actually spend the first half talking about Black Lightning and the finale. There's a few things I want to talk about that I did or did not like about, this season or the last episode in general. And then the second half is in regards to Superman. Now, one person did bring this up, and for some reason, I cannot find that comment for the life of me, but I'm pretty sure they'll make themselves known. But someone actually did bring up something about a character that at the time I didn't feel comfortable, saying, in a video, because they did not like outwardly just say it, or there wasn't enough clues hinting at that. But literally in the last episode, they just was like, well, it is that character. So I want to give that person props. But like I said, I can't find that comment, but just to let that person know, like, they were right. So let's kind of just dive into it. So for Black Lightning, the season finale or the show finale came around, and boy, was it kind of rushed. Now, if you've seen the episode, if you've seen the show in general for this season, it felt kind of rushed in general, like what they were doing, a lot of the choices they made. Like, I felt like it was really rushed because they knew as like the show was about to be over. So even though it was news to us a little later, they definitely knew ahead of time that the show was going to be wrapping up. Now, one of the dope things, well, I'm going to just say this right now as well too, spoilers, but one of the dope things about it was that they kind of explored the fact that Black Lightning's rage does have a tie to, like, his powers. Now, let me explain. Now, for many people don't know this. So some people don't know this. I can't say everyone, because I've definitely talked about Black Lightning so much. A lot of people don't know that Black Lightning, sometimes when depending on what iteration you're reading, his rage was very closely tied to the reason why his lightning would turn black. And for the most part, he knew that. Now, I forget exactly what episode, but I will describe it to you. It was the episode where, he went to Lala's cage fighting, and then he was fighting, he was winning, and then you saw like his eyes not only went from blue, but it went to like this really dark purple. And that's usually an indication that his lightning is like shifting colors into like black, which means he still has room to actually grow more powerful, but they never took that route, which is one of the things that kind of got me triggered about the final season, where they introduce little hints like that, but then they don't do anything with it. Why bring it up at all if you're not going to do it at all? But that's besides the point as well. But one of my biggest points with the show was definitely that whole Jennifer thing, where we find out there was two of her, but not technically two of her. Supposedly it was this life form that wanted to take a physical form, but it was like hovering in the ionosphere. And then basically when Jennifer would go up there and collect energy, that energy-based life form would like grab pieces of her DNA slowly over time, and then basically hijacked her DNA. So even though physically she looked a little different, the creature itself just managed to manifest her DNA differently, but it was still relative to her gene pool. So that was something that was interesting, but also was not expected in terms of the whole alien thing. I personally don't think they should have said it was like a creature or something like that, because they never suggested that in the season at all. They suggested obviously that Jennifer could have been different, or Jennifer wasn't quite who she was, which could have just been a video that I did in which she's like a complete clone of herself, where the prime Jennifer, the one that we've gotten to know, is the prime Jennifer, and then the one that we see now is just a partial manifestation of like, some sort of energy that kind of broke off from her. That I felt like that would have been a better approach to that, instead of just at the very last episode saying, oh no, it was an alien. Like, that's kind of just like out of nowhere and rushed. And I don't know if they're trying to tie it into the other CW universe shows by introducing aliens into Black Lightning at the last minute, but whatever. In general too, I don't like how they took a Lala off the menu, kind of like behind the scenes. You saw him, and then at one point you just saw they kind of Star Wars him when they just kind of froze him into this stone-like thing. So didn't like that either. The fight with Tobias and Jefferson was very short-lived. It was cheap, and it was just like, nah. I feel like Tobias definitely would have put up more of a fight, especially since his suit was more, electricity resistant or impervious, whatever the case may be. But I felt like he definitely could have gave him more of a fight, because we've seen Tobias do so in the first and second seasons, where, I'll say the first season actually, where he fought Jefferson. He was giving him pretty much a run for his money, and that was when he didn't have resistance towards electricity built into his suit. But that's besides the point. Either the way he died was a little cheap. He got thrown out the window, pretty much, not thrown out the window, but pretty much out the window. And then, he just sat there, died. And then, he said, hey, you don't have to do this. Of course I have to do this, blah, blah, blah. Then just sat there, died, aged up. And his body was still there even when Jefferson and all of them went back to their normal lives, which means y'all did all that just to leave the possibility of him being resurrected open, because that happened in comic books as well. Tobias died, and then some supernatural force came and resurrected him and was using his body as a conduit, blah, 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 blah. So they left that door wide open for that one. And then Lala obviously coming out of that little encasing, obviously because he cannot die anymore. He's not the most powerful being, but he's pretty much immortal at this point. So there's that. Just that the whole last season in general has been like very stagnant, and Lynn was written horribly. I did not like her character last season. Kudos to that actress, because she definitely still, managed to bring that character to life, to the fact that she actually got on my nerves. But I actually never really liked Lynn last season, and this season I feel like she was overbearing, because a lot of the stuff that Jefferson said ended up being right. And he said the same thing about Jennifer when her new form. He was like, that's not Jennifer, there's something off. Why would you not trust the husband, the dude whose powers are extremely similar to his daughter's? He sees things differently than you do. He can see energy differently. So if her energy was behaving differently than it was before, there's a pretty good chance he might be right. Just saying. And a lot of stuff he was right about, but she just didn't want to acknowledge or make herself feel inferior. That whole thing that she invited her ex as a lawyer, didn't tell him, that looks sus as hell. But let's not talk about that one. It's just, this season was just very rough in general. It was very rushed, and it was just okay enough to keep you watching, but I didn't like too much of what was going on. Now, Khalil, on the other hand, I loved his character. I enjoyed the split personality of Painkiller, and the fact that Khalil and Painkiller were technically two sides of the same coin. They just kind of created the Painkiller, protocol in order for him to manifest his darker intentions. Now, obviously, we know at the end of the season he ended up getting cured of not necessarily his powers, but of the Painkiller, split. But he had to forget about Jennifer and the Pierce family, so that way that protocol would not resurrect. Now, there's a good chance that might not be a thing later on. Like, he has to forget, and he forgot. So him forgetting caused the protocol to cease to exist. But that, I believe, it technically means he can meet them again from scratch, and then remanifest new memories and new feelings, and then realize he has powers and all that stuff. So that's entirely possible as well. So they left that door wide open. But just this last season in general was just very rushed. So now this video already is looking pretty long, so I'm going to split this into, I'm going to go to the second half. I'm not going to split this into another video. I'm going to split this into the other half. So we're going to transition into Superman. So I've been watching Superman, and in general, CW has been spending a lot of money on Superman, and I would understand why. It's Superman. Superman was one of the first heroes to ever be created in comic books. I get it. So Superman has been a really dope show. So instead of him having one son, we already know he has two sons, Jonathan, and I forget the name of the other emotionally unstable son, but obviously it's gonna pop up on the screen. What we see so far is that the emotionally unstable son is the one who seems to be manifesting abilities, and the way it's manifesting is like not quite the way it did for him. It quite did for Superman, because one, he's a human hybrid, so I think they're taking more the route that, because he's a human hybrid, he's gonna be more like Superboy, when his powers are still relatively powerful, but he won't be on par with Superman compared to the DC Rebirth and the whole new DC line of comics, where Jonathan Kent is pretty much his genes, his genetics for some reason says his potential will make him just as strong or even more powerful as Superman. So there was always that. But besides that point, I enjoy the show. It's enjoyable. I like the fact that he has two sons, one who suffers from social anxiety, and then the other who pretty much by definition is, in air quotes, perfect, where he doesn't suffer from a lot of those, from a lot of mental illnesses that Jonathan, but the other son is suffering from. So it's very interesting to see how they kind of interact with each other, but also how the son is dealing with his social anxiety while having his powers, because we all know that Superman's powers are very much, he was learning how to trigger his powers based on his emotions when he was younger, especially in Smallville, knowing that a lot of his powers manifested during some sort of emotional duress. But the fact that he has social anxiety, his powers are going crazy, like constantly all the time. He can never predict when or when not his powers will manifest. So that's a nice little interesting take on the power set of Superman in the body of like someone who wouldn't really know how to control it. But that's besides the point. I'm not here to break down the entire series. So someone had brought up the fact that John Henry Irons could be brought up in the show, or what if like the dude who like appeared to be Lex Luthor was John Henry Irons. Now, I didn't think it was a bad thought process. I definitely didn't think that. But the comment I gave him directly was I couldn't be comfortable saying that, especially because at the time they didn't give any solid indication. It really just looked like he was an alternate version of a Lex Luthor brought to Earth, and then brought from a different Earth or a different timeline or something like that, and that was it. But the fact that he was a really good engineer, don't get me wrong, Lex Luthor is a pretty good engineer in himself, but usually he steals it from other people or likes to hire other people to do his dirty work for him. So there was always that. But on the previous episode before this week this is being recorded, what happened was they actually revealed that the guy who is in the suit, who's hunting after Superman, who's trying to get Lois back or warn these people, that he actually stole the armor from Lex Luthor directly, which is why the armor and a lot of the artificial intelligence calls him, Captain Luthor, because, it doesn't know the difference. It's an artificial intelligence in a sense where it just gives him information. It's not really like scanning his body to confirm whether or not it's Lex Luthor. But we find out that it was actually John Henry Irons from an alternate universe who was married to Lois in his Earth, and then he feels like the same thing is going to happen on their Earth, which is why he sought after Lois, was pretty much upset that he saw Lois with another man, but then also saw that Superman was pretty much a hero in this world, and he hadn't turned yet, but some of the events were starting to align with his planet, with his Earth's version of history. So that's what made it very traumatic for him. But then once he got captured, because Superman pretty much got caught up in his trap, because he knew his weaknesses, he knew how to take him out. He used red sun radiation, and then I think he had like little chunks of kryptonite every once in a while as well. His sons came to save him by ramming him with their truck, saved his life, and then ultimately he got captured by the United States government, and he's being held in prison, and then they ran his fingerprints and found out he was John Henry Irons. And then when they try to find out what happened to the John Henry Irons of this Earth's John Henry Irons was dead. So this dude is gonna pretty much, it seems like he's gonna take the place of John Henry Irons when he realizes this is not the same Earth, it's not the same timeline. So of course Superman is far less likely to turn evil, because he doesn't know that Superman has a family, so he has something to fight for and something to maintain his humanity for, but he doesn't know that. But I think eventually he'll replace him after he sees the error in his ways. He's gonna basically replace this Earth's version of John Henry Irons and kind of continue to function maybe in a superhero capacity later on. So who knows? But the person who gave that comment a little while back, I'm actually glad you were right, and I appreciate the fact that y'all are willing to give me comments like that kind of keep my mind open or kind of keep me looking out for stuff like that. But Superman is dope as well. But let me know in the comments what you thought about Black Lightning and Superman and all that stuff. Let me know how you felt about both shows, or both the episodes, the final episode and then the last episode of Superman. Let me know what y'all feeling, let me know what y'all thinking and all that stuff. And if you're new to the channel, please be sure to like, share, and of course subscribe. Leave your comments down below, and I hope to see you later on. Peace out.